Mr. Wilkinson and I met with the Premier and members of her team earlier today, and we discussed how to collaborate on energy projects, critical minerals, hydrogen, which Minister Wilkinson will talk about in a minute. I raised concerns that our government has with the Premier's reckless and irresponsible idea to pull Albertans out of the Canada Pension Plan and by thus weaken the pension for Albertans plus all Canadians. I also issued my strong concerns about how she's managing the childcare file, which we were able to make some progress on. And we also talked about the mismanagement of the healthcare system, how the billions of dollars that we should be using should be put in the right place. And then I voiced strong opposition to what the Premier is proposing with the 2S LGBTQ2 community. And so we had a conversation that was frank and robust, and we're happy to take your questions. En français, j'aimerais dire que Ministre Wilkinson et moi, on avait eu l'occasion de rencontrer la Première ministre Danielle Smith et son entourage. On a parlé des choses en ce qui concerne l'énergie et le développement des minéraux critiques et d'autres dossiers très importants pour l'énergie, et le ministre Wilkinson va en parler. Moi, j'ai indiqué très clairement nos réserves très graves avec ce qui se passe avec le régime du Pension du Canada, l'ingérence du système de garderie et aussi notre opposition à ce que Mme Smith vient de dévoiler la semaine dernière pour la communauté 2S LGBTQ2. Et j'aimerais répondre à vos questions après que le ministre Wilkinson est capable de vous donner plus de précisions sur les dossiers énergétiques. Jonathan?
I think you guys are probably more interested in asking questions, but let me just say a couple of things. Certainly, my colleague, Minister Boissonnault, was standing in for Minister LeBlanc in his capacity as Intergovernmental Affairs Minister. Minister LeBlanc was caught in New Brunswick, and I think is probably on his way here now. I was focused primarily with Premier Smith on a lot of the energy-related issues and the economic opportunity sets of issues. We certainly talked about the clean electricity regulation. We talked a little bit about the oil and gas cap. But we spent a lot of time talking about the future of ammonia, the future for small modular reactors, the work that we are doing across a range of different things, including critical minerals, where I think the province has great ambitions and where we want to work together to enable the economic opportunities for all Albertans. At the end of the day, we represent Albertans, she represents Albertans, and Albertans want us to find pathways to make good decisions. So with that,
did you try to speak your mind on the LGBTQ policies?
I'll start with Catherine's question. Yes, I did. And there's not going to be a lot of common ground in the short term on this. I indicated to the Premier that I thought she had to go back to base principles and talk to people in the community. She said to me that she had personal experience in this space, and so I encouraged her more than once to meet with members of the trans community, to talk with medical professionals, to sit down and talk with teachers. And I was very clear that what I see in the proposals is to take schools and make them less safe for gender questioning kids, and also that it's an othering, and that you're going to have kids in school looking over their back wondering who's going to out them, and that this simply doesn't make kids safe. There was a disagreement on when kids can avail themselves, when youth can avail themselves of gender-affirming care, and I said there are already rules in place. And so I was very clear to the Premier that she needed to broaden the consultation and change these regulations, or that our opposition would continue.
Sortez de cette rencontre-là rassuré.
Non. Regarde, sur les questions d'énergie, on a eu une conversation fructueuse. Mais questions LGBTQ, non, elle ne bouge pas. J'espère qu'elle va prendre mes commentaires au sérieux pour avoir plus de consultations et pour même éviter ce projet de loi. D'après moi, c'est clair qu'elle veut que l'État joue un rôle dans le développement des jeunes personnes qui se questionnent d'identité de genre. Et je l'ai indiqué très clairement que je trouve que c'est dangereux. Et j'ai dit carrément qu'il va y avoir plus de suicides auprès des jeunes si ces proposés continuent.
Côté de l'énergie, avez-vous trouvé du côté de l'énergie qu'il y avait possibilité d'avoir un consensus, à semble dire, s'il fait trop froid, l'éolien, le solaire, ça ne marche pas? Avez-vous l'impression qu'il y a moyen d'avancer dans ce dossier-là?
Je crois que nous devons avoir les conversations avec tous les provinces et les territoires. Il y a les concerns que l'Alberta a discutés. Et nous écoutons, et bien sûr, je crois qu'il y a les chemins dans lesquels nous pouvons trouver, peut-être pas quelque chose dans lequel il y a un accord, mais on peut, comment est-ce qu'on dit, narrow les différences.
Boissonnault, you said you weren't. Yeah, you said you weren't reassured. Did she say anything that gave you a sense that she heard what you had to say? That any change was coming?
I didn't hear anything that change was coming. I heard that the position is held firmly by the Premier, and so I encouraged her to spend more time with people in the trans community, with medical professionals, with teachers, with people for whom this is going to have a significant effect. And I said, look, outing kids at school isn't helpful. In fact, it's harmful. And so I think we have a lot of work to do to continue to mobilize on this issue and to let UCP MLAs know that it's not the Alberta that we want.
If she does end up bringing this policy forward as proposed, did you mention anything about what the federal government may do in that case, for example, withholding funding from the transfers?
That didn't come up, but as I've said before, ministers of health at our government have held money back from jurisdictions that contravene the Canada Health Act, and we will do so in the future.
So this is possible. Do you think it is a contravention of the Canada Health Act?
I can't say that without seeing the regulations, but Minister Holland and I have had this conversation.
What changed on childcare?
Pardon?
You mentioned earlier that there was some progress on childcare. Can you update us?
Look, I think I said you've left money on the table. Why are you doing that? You're saying that you can't pay your childcare workers enough money, and yet you've left money on the table in Ottawa. Take the money and invest in people, and you have a $5.5 billion surplus. So there was willingness to have a system work as well in Alberta as it does across the country, and I found that to be a good point of conversation, and so I indicated that I'll be working with Minister Suds, Minister LeBlanc, and PMO to make sure that whatever issues are in place that could come from the federal government, we will resolve. But the reality is that we transferred $3.8 billion to the province to get to 62,500 spaces, both in the private and public sector, and the province hasn't delivered.
When you talk to the Premier, and she has a suite of these policies that are designed to, deal with trans kids and gender diverse kids, did you say which ones you felt were the most harmful, or was it all of them that you simply said, no bueno, we can't support any of this, we want you to take them all off the table? Or did you kind of hone in on one or two that you said, while you may want to go, people might have discussion down this road, we certainly can't go down this one?
We talked about the safety of kids at school and making sure that schools stay safe places. And I pushed the Premier on being clear in her communications about which medical procedures are available to people, and they're all at the age of majority. That was confusing in her video, and so she has to be clear about what she's proposing, and that's why it's really going to matter to see what this legislation looks like. And I said, look, just stop, pause, meet with people, and see if what you've put in the proposals actually makes sense, because the people that I'm talking with are very scared, terrified, and we both have to deliver for Albertans, and this is distracting you from what I hear on the doors are the real concerns of Albertans.
Did she know you? I'm just curious. Did she know you were going to be in this meeting? She said this morning that she hadn't scheduled anything with you yet. Did you ambush her here, or was that?
No, not at all. We had Minister LeBlanc stuck in a snowstorm, and as Alberta Minister, I was happy to represent him on the intergovernmental file. Premier Smith and I have sat down before. When she threw out these proposals last week, I asked to meet with her right away. And due to scheduling conflicts, that wasn't able to take place, and snow allowed us to meet.
Just so we're clear, because you said it in French, you're not reassured after this meeting, so why aren't you?
No, I'm not reassured at all, because the Premier didn't commit to meeting with trans people. She didn't commit to meeting with medical professionals who have guidelines and protocols and procedures that have been researched for some time. She did not indicate meeting with teachers or with parents who are affected by this issue. And so I think there's work to do to continue to be very clear with the Premier and UCP MLAs that an attack on trans kids and the 2S LGBTQ community in 2024 is not on.
Provinces already have very similar policies, but Alberta seems to go a step further. Are you concerned that now other provinces are going to follow suit and go, to the same lengths that Alberta is, or potentially further?
Absolutely. As I've said before, you can bet that other conservative jurisdictions are looking at this very closely, and this has to be a line in the sand. Like, Danielle Smith cannot bring these kind of harms to people in our province. And I mean, look, silence is complicity. Where is the Ontario government on this? You've already seen Pierre Poilievre indicate very closely that he's supporting Danielle Smith and her policies that are clearly taking on 2S LGBTQ2. This morning he posted that he supports Danielle Smith. He released a video this morning, and so he's shown Canadians who he is this morning.
I think you've
us off guard, Minister, but I'm going to ask you.
I said it in the House of Commons, so I better be right. So it's out.
She made this announcement last week, knowing that she was coming here within days. Whatever else Premier Smith's intentions are, and her stated intention is care for children within her province. Do you think that on some level she wants a fight with you and the federal government on this issue, and that perhaps you're giving it to her?
Look, I can't comment on the machinations of why she would put these policies before. I have to take it on the face of the fact that she's put these policies forward now, and I have parents and kids and teachers and docs in my province scared and others terrified at what this means for them. And so I'm always going to defend members of my community, and I'm going to defend Albertans.
What do you make of the fact that when the Premier at least addressed us, she talked about, I have spoken to some trans folks and they have expressed concerns to me that are kind of in line with these policies. Like, what do you make of her argument that there's not kind of one singular vision for care for trans kids and that there is a little bit of room to take a look at these policies?
Shine a light on the consultation. Who did she meet with? Who's she being formed by? Because all of the major organizations in Alberta and across the country have not had the opportunity to weigh in on this. They have not been consulted. And just in my own province, that's the Alberta Teachers Association, the Alberta Medical Association, the Alberta Social Workers Association, and the list continues. And so if, as Albertans and Canadians, we're going to take any such policy seriously, it should be based in data, it should be based in evidence, and it should be done in full consultation. That did not take place here in Alberta. Merci tout le monde. Thank you. Thanks, Jonathan.